Okay, we're going to start. Welcome everybody. We're actually recording this, which is very cringy for me, but hopefully not for you. So it shouldn't interfere with anything particularly. My voice is going a bit croaky now. We're having croaky voice problems, so hopefully my voice will stand up. So this is about the new UCAS tariff and also reforms to, well, everything really, A-levels, BTECs and GCSEs. So it's a lot of information. I'll try not to go too quickly, but I do tend to talk quite quickly. So if I do, tell me to slow down. Okay, once I get into my flow, I'm off. So for those who don't know me, I'm Jenny Ventris. I'm Head of Admissions and Student Records. So all these reforms sit very much in my area. And it's been a huge amount of work to look at this and implement everything. So we'll start on the UCAS tariff. Applicants from this September will be applying under the new tariff. So UCAS have completely rewritten the tariff that we currently work on, and it's effectively really a new currency. It's a way of expressing the tariff in a new currency. I'll go on to sort of show you what the sort of structure looks like, but qualifications will be basically given a size band and then a grade band, and the tariff is achieved by multiplying the two together. So when we go on to the table, that will be more obvious and apparent. Another thing to think about is that AS levels have been repositioned as in line with Ofqual's view that the demand is less for an AS level than it is for an A level. So whereas an AS level was 50% of an A level, under the new tariff it's only 40%. And that will have an implication in terms of when we start to confirm the points that we can take from an AS level will be slightly less than we currently do. BTECs will remain benchmarked against A level, so the demand of an BTEC is judged to be the same as an A level. There are a number of reforms that are coming into the BTEC which I will explain, which sort of slightly beef up the BTEC in terms of academic input. The International Baccalaureate, now we don't see a huge amount of International Baccalaureate applicants, but we do see a considerable number. That will be dealt with differently under the new tariff. It's broken down into component parts, but again, you don't need to know too much about that. So, the new tariff, according to UCAS, reflects qualification rather than academic demand. Not really sure what that means particularly, but it will be applied to all level 3 qualifications, including vocational going forward, so things like higher apprenticeships, possibly even things like city and guilds. I'm not quite sure at this stage. It does allow for the inclusion of access. In fact, access have already been included, but the access tariff is very, very complicated. And it will also ultimately include EU and the more common international qualifications. All existing qualifications, so all level 3 qualifications from UK and a couple of international ones, like the Irish Hires and the Hong Kong diploma, have been already moved across to the new tariff. The main reason for doing this is to make it simpler, more transparent, but also easier for UCAS to administer, because currently under the new tariff, the methodology for including something into the old tariff was extremely complex. So and costly. The awarding bodies had to actually pay for the inclusion of that qualification into the tariff, and it meant that smaller awarding bodies couldn't afford to pay for it. So the idea of this is to make it more transparent, easier to have a qualification added to the tariff. So, as I said, each qualification is going to sit in one of 4 size bands, size bands 1 to 4. So an A level sits in size band 4, the largest qualification, as does a BTEC subsidiary diploma, which is equivalent to 1 A level. Things like the IB higher sit within the higher size bands, and then you go down, so on level 2, size band 2, it's the AS level, the extended project, and things like the BTEC level 3 certificate and the IB standard and core levels. Okay, and then grade bands. This is how an A level fits into the new grade band. So, and then you can see that the AS level has been sort of positioned between it. So this is where we get it's quite difficult to understand, but this is where we sort of get the 40%. So whereas a B grade at A level would normally have been equivalent to 50%, the way they've shifted it up and down the banding means that when you multiply it with your size 2, it comes out of 40% of an A level, if that makes sense. Okay. So, just to show you what the new tariff looks like, it looks completely different. So for an A level, for example, a grade A at A level at the moment under the current tariff is 120 points. Under the new tariff, it's 48. So it bears no comparison whatsoever to the existing tariff, which, as I say, it's really just a matter of expressing it in a different currency, but it will obviously take everyone some time to get our heads round that actually 100 points, a B was 100 points and now it's 40. So it's just a matter of sort of making those new calculations. So what does this mean for UH? Obviously, we will have to rewrite completely all our entry requirements. I've already gone out to the schools, to all the admissions tutors, to ask them. I've done it for them effectively, but asked them to check it. So everybody has expressed their entry requirements now in the new tariff. That's now with Marcoms, and that will be published in our 2017 prospectus and on the website going forward. So we did have a discussion internally about whether we would take the opportunity to move away from the UCAS tariff. There was a working group set up under Julie Kelly, but it was decided that we would, for the moment, continue with grade-based offers. That policy will be reviewed on an annual basis, but at the moment, say, definitely grade-based offers. This is mainly because we are very much an institution that takes applicants from a wide range of qualifications. So we're not an institution that takes people mainly from A-levels, for example. A lot of our applicants have a combination of qualifications. So to try and express that in a grade-based offer, to say, okay, you have to get a B in an A-level or 3 Bs at A-level, what would that actually look like if you were trying to express that as a combination of BTEC and A-level? And effectively, all you're doing is going to be sort of going back to the underlying tariff, effectively, and then having this sort of very mixed economy. So at the moment, we are still going to be a UCAS-based, a tariff-based organisation, but that may be subject to change as we see what our competitors do, effectively. Okay, so that is really it on the UCAS tariff. Any questions before I go on to A-level reform? Good. Okay, A-levels. So as you may all be aware, we are entering a period of great instability in terms of qualifications. The majority of all the level 3 qualifications are being reformed in some way or another over a period of the next 4 to 5 years. So the key changes for A-levels are, as I said earlier, the AS and the A-level are being decoupled. That means that the AS grades that the applicant takes, if the applicant was to take an AS qualification, at the end of the first year, they would be examined in that AS qualification, but the grades they get would not count to the final A-level. We're moving back to the linear type of A-level that the older people in the room, including me, did way back. So we're moving away from modular exams back to linear. So an applicant who has started on the new A-level syllabus, and so I'll explain to you which subjects that is in a minute. An applicant who started from this September 15 will now be taking all their A2 exams or A-level exams at the end of the 2-year period. If the school chooses to put them in for the AS level, those grades will not be counted and they'll have to effectively take those exams again at the end of the second year. They can step off and bank the AS level and it becomes a qualification in its own right in the same way as it always has done, but it will not count to the final A level. Okay, so as I said, they'll all be assessed at the end of the year. No January exams and no resits. ASs will be designed to be taught alongside the A level. So the school can decide to teach them in parallel. So you could have someone who just wants to do an AS level, someone wants to do a full A level, and they'll be taught together. All qualifications, AS qualifications, will be exam-based, only with the exception of art and design. The content has been reviewed and updated. And the key thing here is the changes are not consistent across England, Wales and Northern Ireland. These changes are really happening in England, and they're happening over a phased basis, which I'll talk about later. In Wales and Northern Ireland, they're retaining the modular A level, but dropping to the AS being only 40% of an A level. And to confuse things even further, Wales are also producing a linear AS A level for use in England, which is called this UCAS. So we have a very, very mixed picture going forward. So, an introduction of the new A levels. So, column on the left is the subjects have already been reformed. So, students studying on any of those qualification subjects will be taught, have already on the new syllabus. So, that includes English language and English literature and all the sciences. Okay, so they will be taking their A level in a linear form in June 2017. And then over the next 2 years, the other subjects will be phased in. Okay? So, if the subject is not on that list, it means that they will not be reformed and they will ultimately stop being examined. So there's a rolling programme of qualifications being reformed and those not being reformed. So we won't see the full effect of this until applicants coming in for September 2019, because it's going to take a 3-year cycle to bed all these reforms in. So for September 2017, applicants will be seeing A, them applying with a new tariff, B, with a mixture of reformed and non-reformed A levels, and some presenting with ASs, some not presenting with ASs. And then to add to that, we've also got the GCSE reform that I'll go on to in a minute. So you can see that it's a very, very uncertain picture. Added to this, if someone is doing a science A-level, so as I said, science A-levels already have been reformed, first teaching from September 2015. Where there's a practical element in all the science A-levels, that will no longer form part of the overall assessment grade. So their science practical assessment will be examined separately, and they'll get a pass or fail for that element of the assessment, but won't be included in the final grade. So I've already gone out to admissions tutors to say, will you require the science practical assessment as a pass or fail? And majority have said no, but obviously for things like biosciences, pharmacy, yes they will. So that again will have to be clear on our website that whether we do or don't require that pass in the practical. Then English, there'll still be an element of non-exam assessment, but the weighting will be reduced and there'll be no non-exam assessment for AS level. Okay, Ofqual have said the grading standards, the new A levels and AS qualifications will not be different to that of current versions. They remain substantially the same, and they will ensure that there are comparable outcomes, which basically mean the way they produce their gradings will flex to make sure that we have a certain proportion of people coming through on the same grades. Okay, and the grade profiles will be very similar to the current ones. So in theory, although we're moving to linear A levels, Ofqual seem to be saying that we won't see a huge dip in qualification attainment. We'll wait and see. So how will schools teach the new A levels? The honest answer is we don't know, and they don't really know. There will be a long period of a mixed economy, as I said, because the situation is fluid over the next 3 years. UCAS surveyed schools and colleges and have concluded that there is a wide diversity and uncertainty about their approach to teaching the AS or the new linear A levels. They went out to them again recently, and a new survey was published in January, and it kind of says the same thing, that they still don't really know. A lot of public sector schools are taking the approach they'll probably continue largely with teaching or offering the AS, so offering students the chance to do 4 A levels from the start of their course, dropping one subject and carrying on with 3. That seems to be the preferred approach at the moment, at least for most subjects. But obviously, as they start to see the new A levels bedding in, that approach may change. So all in all, still a lot of uncertainty about how people are going to be dealing with this. UCAS are encouraging universities to put a sort of statement about our A-level reform and how we're dealing with it. On the website, we have done that to conform with UCAS request. So, that's it on A-levels. Again, a lot of information. Any questions? Megan?
If there are no resits, if they don't get their A-level grades, usually they resit and therefore can go into the subject they want.
They can resit it in the next year. So they could resit...
No January.
No January resit. They can obviously, yeah, absolutely can resit.
Oh, they can resit.
But they can't resit until the following June. Okay. Anything else?
You said that if someone had done an AS, they'd have to retake that exam effectively,
Yeah.
getting rid of the A2. What happens to the points from the AS? Are they part of the offer that we consider, or do they effectively dissolve?
If they don't cash the qualification in, it's not a recognised qualification. So the schools will use it in terms of predicting the A-level grades, but it won't be a cashed-in qualification. So we couldn't count that as anything because it doesn't exist effectively. That makes sense. Okay, anything else? Okay, stunned you all into silence. Okay, BTECs, yay, we're on a roll. So, BTECs, participation in BTECs is very much on the increase. Figures here say that we went up from 13.5% in 2008 to 23.4% in 2014. I don't know the figures for 2015, but I would imagine they're even higher. And we, as I said earlier, we see an awful lot of applicants who present with a mixture of qualifications. And again, from the survey that UCAS did, the schools are seeming to suggest that they will start teaching more subjects in a BTEC, although I have heard conflicting advice to that too, but so again, uncertainty. But we certainly see an awful lot of applicants presenting with a mixture of qualifications. So, BTECs are being changed, and these will be introduced for first teaching this September. So we won't see anybody progressing to us until 2018. There'll be 2 categories, as I understand it, both attracting the same number of UCAS points, but it's just 2 different types of BTEC. So the Applied General, which is a broad study of a vocational area, and then a tech level, which is a more specialist technical, as it says, qualification. They will all be accredited to a new framework called the RQF. Now, for those who know a BTEC, we've had so many different variations of a BTEC. On the moment, we're on, not the NQF, we've gone for, anyway, I can't remember, but we've gone on for about 3 different iterations of a BTEC. So we're on the new one from 2018. There'll be new award titles, which is again very confusing for everybody. At the moment, we have on the left-hand column a certificate, a subsidiary diploma, a 90-credit diploma, a diploma and an extended diploma, and these are equivalent to different values of A-level. So certificate, half an A-level, moving up to the extended diploma, which is in theory worth 3 A-levels. In their wisdom, they have decided to change the title of these BTECs under the new framework, under the RQF framework. So we'll now have a national certificate, a national extended certificate, a national foundation diploma, which is very confusing because obviously that has sort of conflicts with the college offering of foundation diplomas, a national diploma and a national extended diploma. all worth the same in terms of A-levels, so in terms of guided learning hours, that's their equivalency, but new titles. The idea of changing the BTEC is to make it a more robust qualification. There's a lot of feeling amongst universities that the BTEC doesn't necessarily prepare applicants in a robust way for university study. There's very little external assessment currently, and students are not very, when they come to university, are not familiar with things like research skills and referencing. So the idea is to try and make it more of an academic qualification. So 33% of the BTEC will be externally assessed, and most subjects will have at least one written exam. There'll be a larger core of mandatory units, and there's a big change in terms of resits for assessment. At the moment, as I understand it, an internal assessed unit can be resubmitted a number of times to be regraded. It will only be allowed to be resubmitted once, and only one resit for external assessment units. There'll be more emphasis on research skills and strengthening embedding of maths and English requirements. But they will retain the existing grading, so P, M, D and D star. Okay, so P equivalent effectively to kind of a CD, M, CB, D, and then D star equivalent to effectively an A grade or A star. Okay, Pearson's say that when new qualifications are introduced, there is often a dip in achievement while teachers get used to bedding the qualification in. So we may see an impact on the grading that we have with BTECs. That's it with BTECs. Any questions? Okay, going on to GCSEs. So again, GCSEs are being reformed much along the lines of A-levels. They're going to be fully linear. So no resits apart from at the end of each year, and no modules, so no January resits. The grading system, just to confuse things even more, the GCSEs are going to be completely regraded. So where at the moment we have grades A to G, we will now be having 9 to 1, with 9 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. We have had discussions internally about what grade we would require to match our C grade for GCSE Maths and English. The current recommendation is that we'll go for a 4, which is a medium to low C. That has been agreed by ARAG, the Academic Registrar's Recruitment Group, and then needs to go now to Academic Board for full ratification. But that is the recommendation, that we go for a 4. Assessment will be mainly exam-based, and it says here, with other types of assessment used only where needed. More demanding content, particularly with maths, and most subjects will be untiered. At the moment, some subjects there are 2 different tiers to the GCSE, so applicants can take the lower tier, which is in theory less demanding, but it gives them a maximum grade they can achieve. With the new GCSE structure, all subjects will be untiered apart from maths and science. Okay. Again, these changes will only happen mainly in England. Wales are sticking to the A to G grading, and Northern Ireland are yet to decide. Actually, what I haven't put here is whether they're doing the linear, and I need to probably confirm that, so I don't know, I'm being a bit vague on that one. So, again, as in A-levels, the reforms are coming in gradually. For us, obviously, we require all applicants to have a C grade in English language and maths. So these have already been reformed. First teaching is happening now. So people taking GCSEs in year 10 at the moment are taking the new structure. So we will see the new grades coming through in 2017, August 2017. The next lot to be reformed are second group, and then the third group. And the same with A-levels. If they haven't, if they're not in that list, they disappear. Okay. So that's really it in GCSEs. Any questions? No. Okay, I'll touch on technical baccalaureate. This is just a performance measure for schools and colleges in terms of performance tables. To achieve the baccalaureate, the student has to attain a level 3 qualification, and this is for technical qualifications, so it's BTECs, Cambridge OCRs, an approved level 3 maths qualification and an extended project qualification. Okay, this is not a requirement, it's not a mandatory requirement, it's just something that schools may wish to encourage their students to take. And then very quickly, just to let you know also that there is a new qualification called a core maths qualification. As you will hopefully all know, all young people now have to remain in some form of education until their 18th birthday. This can be full-time, part-time, apprenticeship, part-time, or at least volunteering for 20 hours a week. If they haven't got a GCSE in their maths and English, they have to keep going as part of their education. So we know that our consortium college partners have seen a massive increase in the amount of GCSE applicant or GCSE retakes they are having to put their students through. So like 900, one of our colleges went from about, how many was it, Sharon?
Class of 80 to 900.
80 to 900. So there is a massive, but we know anecdotally that a lot of these applicants are still failing their GCSE retakes. 6% pass. So out of the 900 students they put into GCSE retakes, 6% passed. And we know anecdotally that where we've got students or applicants who are applying for degree programmes and haven't got their GCSEs and we're waiting for a retake, I would say probably at least 90% of those don't achieve their required grade at retake. There are other things they can do. Obviously, we do take other qualifications, like, for example, functional skills. So these applicants don't get their GCSEs, they can still come to us with functional skills level 2. And that's unlikely to change. So the government has an ambition that the majority of young people will carry on studying some form of maths until at least 18, because they perceive maths as being increasingly essential to the world and his wife. So they've developed this new core qualification, core maths, which is designed for someone to take if they've got grade C or above, but they don't want to go on to do A level or AS level in maths. It'll be taught over 2 years and it'll be equivalent to half of an A level. Started teaching from 2015, so we won't see any awards coming through until 2017, although there was some participation in the pilot scheme. So we may see some for next year's entry. It's not compulsory at the moment, but who knows what they'll do. So just to confuse matters further, each awarding body can obviously choose their own title for this qualification. So it's not always going to be core maths. It's going to be called all sorts of things depending on which awarding body you are. And just to confuse things further, OCR actually have got 2, effectively. So they're obviously different emphasis slightly within the syllabus. And as I said, they'll carry half points, in terms of UCAS points, half an A level. That's under obviously the old tariff. Haven't calculated the new tariff. Okay, so what's UH position on A-level and GCSE reform? We don't expect to make any major changes to our entry requirements. We do consider every application on its merit. We do look at AS grades, but we also consider other things, predicted grades, GCSEs, personal statement, references. This is basically the statements on our website, so it's basically saying that we accept students from a wide variety of backgrounds, wide variety of qualifications, and are very happy and comfortable with accepting people with a combination of qualifications. As I said here, we on the website it says we have yet to decide on our entry criteria for GCSEs, but it's likely to be a 4. Okay. There's all sorts of useful information on qualification reforms on UCAS website and also on the .gov site. So I'm very happy to circulate this presentation afterwards, and if you want to look at it in detail. But UCAS has an awful lot of information on both the tariff and the qualification reforms. Okay, that is it.